Mrs. Kate at the Library of Whispers, and today we're going to take a look at this lovely vintage Ladybird book. It's called Butterflies and Moths. Take a look inside. It says, a system for naming butterflies and moths was introduced by Linnaeus in the 18th century. The names are in Latin and Greek because these languages are understood by most scientists all over the world. The word Lepidoptera comes from two Greek words, lepis meaning scale and pteron meaning wing. The table opposite shows how to classify the speckled wood butterfly. So, the class of this butterfly is Insecta, or insects. The order is Lepidoptera, butterflies and moths. The family is Satyridae, the browns. Genus is Barrage. Species is Egira, the speckled wood. There it is. Butterflies and moths are probably the most attractive of all the insects. Apart from a very small number, they are all quite harmless to plants and man. Yet man is responsible for many changes in the environment which have endangered some species of butterflies and moths to the point of extinction. The felling of woodland, expansions in agriculture, building developments and road construction are killing the food plants necessary for breeding and destroying habitats. In industrial areas, some moths, for example the peppered moth, have become dirty and even changed colour because of pollution in the atmosphere. This book gives an introduction to butterflies and moths and how and where they live. So it was published in 1978, which is quite a long time ago. Butterflies and moths are insects. They form the second largest group of creatures in the animal kingdom. The biggest group are the Coleoptera, or beetles, which are also insects. Mammals, reptiles, birds and fish are each made of a skeleton covered with flesh. An insect does not have this inner skeleton. Instead, it has a hard outer casing called an exoskeleton, which contains the flesh. The casing is made of chitin, a substance rather like our fingernails. The bodies of butterflies and moths are much the same. So this is the body of a moth, and we can see the abdomen, the thorax, forewing, leg, eye, antenna, head, and the wings of a butterfly, the hind wing, the forewing, and the veins within the wings. sensitive to touch. Butterflies can only eat liquid food because they have no chewing mouth parts. And in this illustration we see a clouded yellow butterfly feeding on clover. This is a male butterfly. They mainly feed on nectar and sugary juice from flowers. Butterflies suck this out through a feeding tube called a proboscis. When not in use for feeding, it curls up like a watch spring under the head. The life cycle. There are 4 stages in the life of a butterfly or moth. First, there is the egg. The egg hatches into a caterpillar or larva. The caterpillar becomes the chrysalis or pupa. From this comes the butterfly or moth. This stage is called the imago. The length of time taken at each stage varies according to climate and temperature. In a hot country it may only take 3 weeks from the egg to the butterfly. In this country, that's the UK, all species hibernate for the winter during one stage. It can take up to 1 year from the egg stage to the butterfly or moth. Now in this illustration here, we have the brown Argus butterfly laying its eggs on a rock rose, and this is the female, and this is the male. The egg, before mating, the male and female are attracted to each other by scent. This is stimulated in glands at the base of the wing and smelt by the partner through its antennae. Butterflies lay their eggs on the leaves, stalks or flowers of plants. They choose plants upon which the young caterpillars will be able to feed. These are called food plants. A few species lay their eggs near to the food plant, and the caterpillars crawl to it to start feeding. Now here we have the white admiral laying eggs on the leaves of honeysuckle. This is the female, and this is the male. The birth of the caterpillar. Butterflies' eggs are of many different shapes and colours. Many kinds of butterflies lay their eggs one by one. This here is the egg of the large white butterfly, much enlarged of course. It is the small, the butterfly crawls to a place where it can hang upside down. Liquid is pumped into the veins of the wings to stretch them to full size. It takes about an hour for the wings to become dry and firm. Colour. Each kind of butterfly has its own colour and pattern. This helps the butterfly to recognise its own kind. Many males and females of the same species are quite different in colour. The underneath of the wings is different from the top side. Butterflies often rest with their wings folded upright, and the colour and pattern can help them to hide. A butterfly can look just like the plant, branch or stone it rests on. When a creature is coloured or patterned to blend with its surroundings, this is called camouflage. Some species of butterfly mimic or copy the colours of one which is poisonous or bitter to taste. This means that birds and other enemies will leave them alone because they believe them to be poisonous also. Garden butterflies. Some kinds of butterflies like to visit the flowers and shrubs in our gardens. At the end of this book, some plants are shown which will attract butterflies. The holly blue, top left, lays her eggs among the flower heads of holly, dogwood or ivy. The caterpillars feed firstly on the buds and blossom and later on the developing berries. How many kinds? About 20,000 species of butterflies have been found throughout the world. Perhaps there are many more yet to be discovered. In Britain, there are only about 70 kinds, but you are never likely to see this many because some are very rare. Changes in the environment cause numbers to increase and decrease. One pair of butterflies should produce just 2 more butterflies. Many are lost at each stage because of enemies, disease or bad conditions. If there were no loss, one pair of butterflies could produce nearly 3 million in one season. A giant visitor to Britain. The monarch or milkwood is a large American butterfly. Its food plant is the milkweed, which gives its name. Because the milkweed plant is uncommon in this country, no caterpillars have ever been found here. The monarch is rare in Britain, but every so often it may come across America in the hold of a ship. It has even been seen flying across the Atlantic Ocean. This butterfly can settle on a calm sea to rest and then take off again. The average wingspan of a monarch is 10 centimetres. It is tough and leathery with a bitter taste, so birds do not like to eat it. More visitors from abroad. Other butterflies, besides the monarch, come to Britain as visitors. They're called migrants. Every year they arrive, sometimes in large numbers. Although butterflies look frail, they are powerful flyers and are often capable of flying over wide stretches of sea. These are some of the butterflies which migrate to Britain from abroad. The Camberwell Beauty here is rare in Britain which is now extinct in some places, is the large blue. Here. The caterpillars feed on the petals of wild thyme growing near an ant's nest. After the third skinning, the caterpillar finds an ant which milks a honey gland on the back of the caterpillar. It is then taken by the ant down into the ant's nest, where it stays through the chrysalis stage. When the adult butterfly emerges, it crawls out from the ant's nest and flies away. This type of interdependent relationship with another creature is called symbiotic. Moths. Nobody knows how many kinds of moths there are in the world. There may be up to 1,097% of the order Lepidoptera are moths. In Britain there are over 2,000 kinds. This is the death's head hawk moth. This is the largest British moth, but it is extremely rare. It is called the death's head hawk moth because the pattern on its back looks like a human skull. The moth is sometimes called the bee tiger because it likes honey and will enter nests for it. It has a wingspan of 10 to 12 centimetres and makes a noise like a squeaking mouse when it is frightened. And here is a death's head hawk moth caterpillar, 13 centimetres long. The chief difference between moths and butterflies is the shape of their antennae. The antennae of British butterflies are all of a simple glob shape. Moths' antennae are of many different shapes. Another difference, which you may find easier to spot immediately, is that butterflies generally rest with their wings upright. Moths mainly rest with their wings spread downwards like a sloping roof. Hawk moths and their caterpillars. Most hawk moths fly at dusk. They are built for speed with narrow wings and streamlined bodies. Forewings are used for flying and hind wings for gliding. The body acts like a rudder for turning. The number of hawk moths is limited by their food plants. A lime hawk moth only feeds on lime or elm trees. The caterpillars are usually still during the day and feed at night. They bury themselves several centimetres below the ground to become chrysalis. So this is an elephant hawk moth and its chrysalis. Here we have a lime hawk, a privet hawk and a bubble hawk. Migrant hawk moths. Some hawk moths are visitors to Britain. They come to us from different parts of Europe. The largest of these migrants is the convolvulus hawk. It flies at night and is attracted to sweet flowers like honeysuckle and petunias. Using its long proboscis, it can feed while flying. There it is. Another migrant which does this is the little hummingbird hawk. It flies in the daytime and hovers as it feeds from a flower. This species of hawk moth, unlike others, is able to live through the winter as an adult. Hawk moths can beat their wings up to 75 times a second. They are capable of flying at 35 miles per hour. A butterfly only beats its wings about 10 times in a second. changes its flight path to a bulb. So we have the lace border moth, brimstone moth, green arches moth, the common footman, and the red underwing. This is the flame carpet moth, the straw dot, the large yellow underwing, the old lady moth, and the small grass emerald moth. Some odd names. Some moths have very odd names. A few of them are quite common, others are only found in a few places. Carpet moths get their name from being patterned like a carpet. There are 44 different kinds of carpet moths and 46 bugs. Brussels lace is so named because of the lace-like pattern on its wings. Footmen get their name from their stiff appearance when their wings are closed. There are 16 kinds of footmen. So let's see what we've got. We have the ear moth, neglected rustic, pretty chalk carpet, rosy footman, blood vein, foxglove bug, Chinese character, dog's tooth, scarce burnished brass, bordered beauty, maiden's blush, purple bordered gold, beautiful snout, Brussels lace, and the white spotted pinion. The moth's cocoon. The caterpillars of moths, like those of butterflies, turn into chrysalises. Another name for the chrysalis is pupa. More than one would be called pupae. Pupa is a Latin word which means a doll. The word puppet comes from this. Most pupae are attached to a plant by a silken thread. The silk is made by the caterpillar. A more scientific word for caterpillar is larva. More than one would be called larvae. The moth larva spins a web of silk round itself, then it changes into a pupa. To do this, the larva first shrinks, becomes smaller and firmer. Then its skin splits behind the head and down to the tail and falls off, leaving the pupa. At first, the web and the pupa are soft, but they soon harden in the air, and the pupa becomes much darker in colour. The pupa and its web are called a cocoon. Some kinds of moths bury themselves